I've made $168,000 a year on average selling jewelry for 10 years straight. The same underrated system every year through algorithm changes, Etsy updates, political and economical changes. There was even a whole year my Instagram was shut down and I still hit six figures. We'll walk through the 6 parts in this simple system and which one most makers don't take seriously enough. It is the reason I kept making money even the year I lost Instagram and how I get consistent sales. Here is how I get traffic and sales that don't depend on going viral or posting on social media every day. It is with media outreach or influencer marketing. To me, they're interchangeable. This is basically real people with existing large audiences using and recommending your products. Every time I get featured somewhere, I always see an uptick in sales. Like when I got my waffle necklace on the TV show Parks and Recreation, where Amy Poehler wore my necklace, which by the way, I didn't even have to work for or pay money to be featured there. And I made 20 grand that same month that my product was featured on TV, and my overall business sales increased for years following that. Media outreach does 2 things at once. It builds word of mouth because every person who got your product because someone else recommended it is now a candidate to recommend it themselves. And it builds SEO at the same time because every mention you get is a backlink, which is important for getting your shop ranking higher in Google search so you're easier to find online and you stand out among the competition. The thing I love about media outreach is that it compounds, which means it builds upon itself over time. It is incredible leverage. It's not passive, but I think leverage is the next best thing. It's relatively minimal effort for huge gains for your business. So how it works is an influencer posts or a blog or magazine features your work. And the cool thing is even if the feature was from like 2 years ago, it can still be sending you customers today. So it builds equity and momentum for your shop the longer you keep doing it. And eventually you can stop doing outreach actively and the momentum keeps going on its own. That is not true for almost any other marketing out there except maybe content creation like YouTube, but that is way more time consuming to do than outreach. Sometimes media professionals feature your work without you even having to actively pitch your products to them, which is so cool. This is how strangers who don't know you yet end up at your shop. I have a whole step-by-step roadmap teaching you how to do this so you can finally make that consistent income with your shop. So if you want to go deeper, I have a free workshop linked in the description below. So go check that out after you watch this, okay? The next thing on the list is similar but works differently, and a lot of makers are scared of it for reasons I want to debunk. Paid ads. Paid ads is a significant part of my system for making consistent sales. I like to think of it as an ATM where you put in $1 and you get $2 back. Now, of course, those are sample numbers. It doesn't always work that way if you don't do it right. And it can work even better if you do it really right. But the reason I love paid ads is the barrier is lower than content creation or social media. Once you have a working ad creative, which is the image or the video you use as the ad, it's pretty passive. Compared to posting on social media every day where the content goes stale and buried in like 24 hours, an ad that converts can run quietly in the background and keep paying you while you do other things that you love, right? But, and there is a but in there because I want to make sure that you don't go in this with unrealistic expectations. Before you spend a single dollar on ads, your product and your website have to convert with strangers first, so cold traffic. People who do not know you yet. If strangers aren't buying your work yet, ads will not fix that, okay? Ads will just light the money on fire faster because they expose whatever is broken at the product or your website level. So validate first by making a few sales to strangers through your website, and then you can turn on ads. When the product and the site are ready, the most important factor to think about is the creative. So targeting matters too, and what's so cool about this is you can show ads specifically to, say, people who follow your competitors or to people whose interests overlap with the audience for your product. But the creative does the heavy lifting. So good products, good site, good creative ensures you get good success doing paid ads. Now, yes, paid ads does require you to have a little bit of a monthly budget, but you needed a budget anyway to do a lot of other things in your business, right? Like making your products, buying shipping supplies. So just make sure that you set aside at least $100 a month on ads to start with. That might sound like a lot if you are just starting out, but consider that you will make sales from that money. So if you follow my advice, that $100 will turn into sales and hopefully profit, which will then give you more money the next month to spend more on ads or to simply keep as more profit for you. Okay, Items 1 and 2 are how I bring in strangers to my shop without grinding on social media. Item 3 is where most makers undermine all of that without even realizing it. None of what we just talked about matters if you're sending all of your traffic to an Etsy or TikTok shop or Instagram profile, because those are rented platforms. The platform owns the rules. They can change the algorithm, they can change the fee structure, they can suspend your account with no warning and for no reason, and you have no recourse. With your own website, you control the design, the customer relationship, your potential customers' email addresses, and the data. But you need, and I mean like 100,000%, you need your own website. The way I put it to anyone debating on this is, would you rather have a shop you cannot control or a shop you can control? When you say it that way, the answer is obvious, right? I hope. But I think the reason makers don't make the obvious move is fear. Because I get it. Setting up a website feels overwhelming. It feels like this 6-month project. It feels expensive, and a lot of people get scared at this step because it feels very technical. But it really doesn't have to be any of that, especially if you know what tools to use, like Hostinger, who is sponsoring today's video. I personally use Hostinger myself and therefore can recommend them, and I do so all the time because they really make things so easy for you. Hostinger has a lot of different options for building up your store fast, but I want to highlight Horizons, which is the easiest tool for building out a fully functioning website in 20 minutes. So let me walk you through how real quick so you can see literally how easy and fast this is. And like, you can sketch your website on paper if you want, or in Canva, and then hand the sketch over to Horizons and it builds the site out for you without you having to touch any code or do anything techie. And it's kind of fun to do too. Now, I know some of you might feel a little iffy about this being AI, and it is, but I feel like this is the best way to use AI. You're not using it to copy or steal someone else's art. You're using it for administrative, logistical reasons, which is really different from having it create art for you. Anyway, so just a few clicks and you have a free domain, you have your own business email address, and a website that people can shop from in one place. If you sign up for Hostinger, the things that matter most for handmade sellers is all in the starter plan. You get 70 AI credits per month, and the way it works is you chat with Horizons to build out and customize your site, and every message that you send costs 1 credit. You can sell physical products, digital products, or even subscriptions directly from your Horizons site with 0 transaction fees, and compare that to Etsy taking 6.5% off every sale, plus listing fees, plus ad fees. That makes Hostinger so affordable. Use my coupon code MEI, M-E-I, that gets you an extra 10% off at checkout, and there is a 30-day money-back guarantee, so virtually risk-free for you. If you don't like it, email them, you get your money back. The link to sign up is hostinger.com/Mei, and the code is MEI, M-E-I, for 10% off. You can find links to sign up in the description. Okay, so you've basically built out your own website now. The next thing is the other thing that you control that beats every algorithm: your own email list. Most people coming to your shop are not going to buy on that first visit, okay? That's nothing wrong with you or your website. That is just how it works. So they're going to click around, they maybe like a product, they bookmark it, or they might close the tab and then just forget. An email list gives you a built-in audience of people who already said, hey, I love your work, keep me in the loop. So when you have something new to launch a few months from now, or when you just want or need a cash influx in a slow month, you have an audience to sell to that you don't have to pay per impression for, or don't have to struggle to get in front of them with social media. But the critical part is that you control when and how often you can message your subscribers. The platform algorithms are not gonna mess with how many people see your email, at least not to the same degree that social media does. And the people on the list already raised their hand, right? They told you, I want to hear from you. That is the difference between hoping the Instagram feed shows your post and actually showing up in someone's inbox who explicitly said they want to hear from you. And you could argue that, yeah, someone on Instagram can follow you and that has a similar intent, but I would argue back that the intent of someone signing up for an email list is way stronger. The thing though is your email list only grows if you have traffic coming over to your site, which is what we talked about in the first 2 parts of this system. My email list has been consistently the mechanism that brings in sales or converts looky-loos into paying customers. I also like to see it as that you don't have to do the act of selling and convincing people to buy your stuff that we have to do on social media every day, because Your email list does that for you automatically once you've set it up. So that covers traffic, that's parts 1 and 2, and the foundation that you can control, that's parts 3 and 4. The last 2 pieces are parts of the foundation that most people overlook, but they play such a huge role in your success. If you get these next 2 parts right, everything else we talked about becomes so much easier to do. So what types of products can sell consistently for a decade and stay essentially algorithm proof? The answer is products that are giftable. Things people see and feel proud of to give to someone or proud to tell their people that they bought. There is like this built-in urgency around birthdays, Mother's Day, anniversaries, holidays, special occasions like that. And interestingly, people often spend more on other people than they do on themselves. So the price tolerance goes up when it's a gift item. In my jewelry business, Tiny Hands, my main collection hasn't changed dramatically over the years because evergreen demand stays evergreen, and I design my collection to be evergreen. New products will help give you fresh angles for press outreach, and trends can lift revenue in a peak month, but the trends are not where you get your dominant income from. The foundation-based collection is. So what that means is you don't actually need a huge catalog. You can start with just 6 to 12 products, whether you're selling necklaces or t-shirts or candles, whatever the giftable evergreen version of your craft is, build it up from there over time. And also what that means is you don't need to design new products constantly to have that consistent income. I have had the same 62 charm designs for years, and I could still make 6 figures every year, even when I never introduced any new products. The bread and butter collection is the foundation, and the trendy hits are like the cherry on top. Last thing on the list, and honestly, this is the one that determines whether everything else even works long term. If I had to name the one thing that makes everything above hold up for a decade, it is pricing right. Most makers price based on materials and time spent making the product alone. That is not enough. Sustainable pricing accounts for not only materials and supplies, but also business overhead and the time or money you spend on marketing and promotion, which is, if you're still doing social media, it's every hour and every minute that you create a post and publish something and make a video reel. If you don't price for that marketing time, you are working for free every single week. And that is why things feel so hard and why most makers struggle long term. They are working so hard on social media and not seeing enough profit to keep going or to pay for anything beyond making more inventory. But if you want a business that eventually pays for your bills, pays for your food, your rent, or your house, or for a vacation, or to raise a family with, you need to make sure you are pricing right. What does that mean? So pricing right means when influencer outreach takes you 4 hours that week, that time is paid for. When the ad creative takes you a Sunday afternoon to design, that time is paid for. When you take a vacation, the business doesn't grind to a halt because the pricing already had breathing room built in. This is what makes a business actually algorithm proof and last for the long term at the math level. You can afford to experiment, you can afford to take care of yourself, you can afford to step back when life happens because the unit economics already account for those costs. The price you put on the listing is the price of running the operation that puts the product in someone's hands. That is all it is. So there it is. You have influencer marketing for getting traffic that doesn't depend on you posting every day, paid ads as your $1 in, $2 out lever once your product converts cold, your own website as the land that everything sits on top, your email list as the audience you actually own, giftable evergreen products that stay relevant for a decade, and pricing that pays you for the time you spend marketing the thing. None of those lose value when a platform changes its rules, right? They each compound year after year, and that is the reason my jewelry business has paid me on average $168,000 a year for 10 years straight. And if you're curious, the profit margins are usually like 20 to 30%. So what about the part before any of this, right? Where do you find your first wave of customers when you don't have all the pieces in place yet? I made a video about exactly that. The handmade sellers I know who are quietly making consistent sales without grinding on social media every day. It is on your screen right now, so go watch that next.